8 years ago, the first episode of My Hero Academia aired, and most people loved it. When the first season finished airing, it was extremely well received, and its popularity was insane. But as it got more and more seasons, the reception of the show started getting worse and worse, to the point where if you ask someone what they think about My Hero today, it might be pretty negative. Now, personally, I really still enjoy My Hero and have been enjoying it since the start. I am excited about the new season, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some issues with the show. Some issues that has been getting more and more prevalent the more seasons that have been coming out, that I really think needs to be fixed as soon as possible if My Hero wants its reputation back to where it was. So I'm gonna be going over those issues now, starting with issue number 1, too many characters. At the start of My Hero, I kinda liked that there were so many characters and so many different cool quirks. This dude has fire and ice powers, this guy shoots toilet paper, this guy throws balls. It was all pretty endearing, honestly, but all of these characters get shoved into every damn scene there is. It's clear that the author really likes the character he's created, but doesn't have a natural way to include them in the story. Look at this scene, for example, where the class confronts Deku about his new vigilante arc that he's been on. This is such a great scene because Bakugo is the one confronting Deku. He says stuff like, this stuff is so good. The dynamic between Deku and Bakugo is one of the best parts of the story, but it gets sabotaged by all of the other people in the class who all have to have their own one-on-one conversations with Deku. And it is done in the most formulaic way ever, having all of them take turns talking to him. Even the people who Deku has barely even talked to in the show. There are so many times in the show where we're following the main story, and it's actually really entertaining. But then, all of a sudden, we need to cut to Sugar Man and see what he's doing. I never want to see this guy ever again in my life. And notice how I said this guy. It's not that I don't know his name. I know his name very well because the show has been shoving him down my throat non-stop and I refuse to say his name. And it's not that there aren't interesting side characters. I love Kirishima, for example. He's great, but he doesn't even get the shine that he deserves because so much of the screen time needs to be spent on all of these other people. Todoroki barely even feels like one of the main characters now because he's all of a sudden forced to share the spotlight with all of these other people. The author even says himself in the manga so many times that he really likes certain characters and wants to include them in the story more, but just doesn't really know how to. Which is probably why there's so many training arcs, because those are the only times these guys can fight because they're not nearly strong enough to fight the villains. Which brings me to my second issue. Repetitive arcs. My Hero has like 2 arcs that get cycled back and forth throughout the entire show. The first one is either a training exercise or an exam, and the second one is, oh no, the villains are attacking, who could have seen this happen? Let's go through it real quick. The show starts with a training/exam arc, then the villains attack the school, then there's a sports festival, which pretty much falls under exam arc, surprise villain attack, exams, and get this, a training arc which turns into a surprise villain attack. After that, there's at least a little bit of variety because the heroes are the ones attacking the villains this time. Then we get another exam arc, heroes attack villain arc, exam arc, you get the picture. And these arcs aren't bad at all. In fact, I'd say I like all of them, but I'm just tired of seeing the exact same structure. I wish we could have a bit more creativity. What I will say is that there has been some more variety in the new season with the vigilante arc and the war arc, so I do have to give some props there. Issue number 3. It's way too rushed. Now, I'm not talking about the animation or anything about the visual presentation here, although I guess I can talk about that later. But the story, at least recently, has felt kinda rushed. Twice just fucking dies? What purpose does that serve the story? What sort of character development is Hawks supposed to receive from that? It looked like it was kind of doing something, but then Hawks just never even reacted to it ever again or talked about it. In fact, no one even talked about it. Why does nobody seem to care? I thought Shigaraki actually cared for his closest allies. He doesn't even give a reaction. Speaking of Shigaraki, all of a sudden he just got turned into fucking Jesus. He is so strong. There is legit no one who can keep up. Why did he go from not even being that strong to so many times stronger than All Might in his prime? Characters die. All for One escape prison along with every villain ever. Deku tells everyone he has one for all, and now he has like 10 different powers that he all knows how to use. Stain shows up again then just to do nothing and say nothing of interest. It's all just so much. It's like everything that had been carefully built up from the start of the story all of a sudden just got unleashed at the same time before it was even ready. There isn't really a fix for this issue. Like, I can't just say stop rushing the story, as I'm sure writing it can be very stressful, especially with the lack of time. All I can hope for is improvements. And like I said, I suppose I could talk about the animation complaints. A lot of people say that My Hero doesn't look good enough and that the art and animation isn't good enough, but I just don't think that's true at all. Sure, it's not as good as some of Bones' best work like Mob Psycho, but it still looks better than like 90% of the other shows they've produced. Like, just because it's not the best doesn't mean it doesn't look good. What I will say is that it is a bit annoying how many resources get spent on those dogshit movies when they could have spent that time and money on the actual show, especially when they're not even canon. It's clear that there's some sequences that they've had to cut some corners on, and it's unfortunate, but like, damn, it still looks pretty damn good. I think this criticism should be directed towards the visual style instead. Now, I'm not one of those people who complain about the sky in the background, but I do think there's a fair criticism to be had about the colors and just the overall style. Like the war arc, for example. If someone had pitched me a war between superheroes and supervillains where whole cities and towns get destroyed and so many lives lost, this is not how I would picture it looking. No matter what arc we're in, everything just looks the exact same, it feels like. And it's like no risks are being taken at all. Like, just once, they should just say fuck it and make the sky red. Now, with everything being said, I still love My Hero Academia, and I really enjoyed the first episode of season 1, but I can't help be worried about the future of this show. So yeah, that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this one next.